Being alive is hectic, and that's why we need time for us, a place for honest conversation and real connection. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get stuck in. Hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Time for Us. Today we have Dr. Marlene Wasserman joining me on the podcast, and we are going to have a conversation around how to have better sex, desire, connection, and the role that all of these wonderful things play for us in this day and age. So to kick things off, we are going to ask Dr. Marlene to please introduce herself and just give our guests a little bit of an insight into who you are.
Danny, thank you for inviting me to be part of your podcast. Very excited. Thank you.
Me too.
So I'm going to give you a very short trajectory of how I end up here on your couch so many years later. I started off as a clinical social worker, working in the mental health field. I then did a master's in family therapy, worked as a family therapist. And after working as a family therapist, realized that all these problem children really only had problem parents. So kind of got rid of the children. Started working just with the parents and realized that as I was doing couple therapy, and this was back in early 90s, that they started asking me about sexuality, and was like, I don't know how to do this, I don't have any training in this. And so began a very different kind of journey for me of trying to find a place and a way to become trained in sexuality. Started off my training internationally, became a accredited couple and sex therapist, and then did a doctorate in clinical sexology. So have always been in private practice. This is kind of live on a couch with couples or with individual people, working around their relationship, intimacy, connection, sexuality part. And then in about 2013, as the internet was really kind of exploding and people were becoming really interested in it, I became very interested in what people were doing online, what their relationships looked like, what their sexuality looked like. And I did some research and wrote a book on cyber infidelity. And that was really quite life-changing for me, because I realized that the skills that I had been working with at the time were really not sufficient for me, and that people experiencing infidelity online really experience trauma. So I started training as a trauma therapist. So right now I am deeply immersed in my work. I'm very passionate about my work as a trauma therapist. So I kind of combine the two. I call myself an intimacy trauma therapist, where I work with the sexuality, the relationship, the connection with people, but all through a trauma-informed lens. So my work kind of goes quite deep into the very hurt parts of people. And my job, what I aim to do, is to get people to be happier, to find more joy, because it's really challenging to have a relationship or to parent, to be a partner, to be a parent. And I find that all, still I'm very passionate, fascinated with that all.
I can't wait to touch more on the crossroads of this sexology, sex therapy, and trauma, because we, as part of our homework for this podcast, well, my homework was to watch the Dying for Sex series.
I'm so pleased you did.
And I found it to be quite confronting. But I think, I would love to discuss more of this. I'm just maybe teasing to our listeners that we will get there. But I would like to maybe start with an opening question, which is just around sex itself, and how you think our cultural messaging has shaped the way that we think sex is supposed to be. I know.
So first of all, I always say to people, we've got to get rid of the word sex. Because sex is always just thinking about penetration, penis into a vagina. And so I use the word sexuality, because we've got to look at the broader concept of what really goes on in people's bedroom. Cultural messaging, absolutely dictates and determines how we are sexually. And it's still, Danny, it breaks my heart when I have couples, young people like you, and even younger on my therapy couch, and they're still concerned with the same issues that 4 generations ago when I started this work. They were still concerned and still concerned around that, especially in this country where we have a huge amount of patriarchy still, and women still, even though they have strong voices on social media, women still lose themselves in the bedroom and find that they cannot express exactly what they do want. And if they do express what they do want, they are still slut-shamed and are still made to feel as if they shouldn't be having sexual feelings. So today we've got different influences from a cultural point of view. And we could trace historically, which we're not going to go all the way back into time of history in the 60s and the 70s and feminism, how that grew up and women had the right, they were given the right to be sexual. But as I say, when it comes to the bedroom, those rights kind of disappear a whole lot. Today, there is a huge influence, as you well know, on social media around how women should be sexually. And that puts enormous pressure on women, because you've got women who are displaying themselves, which I love that women can put their bodies out. I'm hesitating because, are those Ozempic bodies or are those real bodies? And who are the role models around what women are looking at today? And I think that, this is really problematic. And what research tells us is that the biggest harm of social media to women, especially to young women, is what they call the comparison factor. Comparing to other women. This is what I should look like, this is not what I look like, this is not what I want to look like, and that has an impact on their sexuality. And what's fascinating is that people of 18 to 25 are having less sex now than ever before in history that we know of in terms of research. Why is that? Well, because they can be online, it's way less threatening. For men, it's because they are afraid, believe it or not, that if they get into sexual situations with women, and I'm talking heterosexually, that the woman's going to say, well, I didn't give you permission, that wasn't consensual, I feel like you sexually assaulted me. So men seem to shy away from real life sexual experiences. So culturally we have a huge impact today of a different kind of pressure and a different kind of almost inhibiting factor for people, especially women, in being sexual.
When I called you and we had our little first chat, and you said to me, what would you like to chat about on the podcast? I said, well, one of the things that I'd be interested to chat about is sexuality, and even in my personal experience in this day and age, that I feel like this shift away from sex as well. I feel like there has been, maybe it's a difference from when I was in my early 20s. There was almost this, if you weren't having sex, it implied something was wrong. So you kind of did it a little bit more, or you were making sure it was a part of your life more. And now I don't know if it's an age thing, I don't know if it's a career thing, if it's a contentment thing, if it's a secure life partner thing, but it almost feels as if, and I hesitate to say it, but I have a little bit of not a disinterest in sex. I love having sex with my partner, but I don't see it as something, I'm questioning its importance, you know? And I guess maybe coming off of what you've said about the decline in people that are younger as well, and my age group, I'm 32, what do you think the importance of sex is, and is it important?
It's just a great question. So once again, when people are on my therapy couch, and there's always going to be what's called a desire discrepancy. One person's always going to want to be sexual more than what the other person is. And I spend time trying to understand what it is they're really seeking. They say, oh, I really want to be sexual, or I really don't have enough sexuality in my life. What is it you really long for? What is it that you yearn for? Well, and I'm going to demonstrate to you. So it'll be okay. What I really long for is, maybe a bit more acknowledgement, maybe a bit more appreciation. And I do what's called somatic therapy. I say, okay, well, how about you just turn to the other person? Just notice this other person. Just what do you notice about Danny? Well, I notice she looks sad. What tells you she looks sad? Well, her mouth is kind of down, and her eyes are tearing, and her head is kind of moving forward, and she'll start crying. And it's like, this is what I long for. I long for him or her just to notice me. And then the sexuality or the genital stuff go out the window. I mean, who cares about the orgasms then? Then it's about, I just want to feel connected to you. I just want to feel seen by you. I want to feel acknowledged by you. I want to feel safe with you. And there's the magic right there. It's not about the sexuality as such anymore.
Okay, so are you saying that that is the important stuff?
Yeah.
Okay, and that however you choose to, if you're in a heteronormative relationship, use your penis or your vagina is completely up to you. But the important stuff is that connection.
Yeah, so the algorithm that I work with is there's got to be a sense of connection first, and then there'll be intimacy, meaning vulnerability, and then sexuality will happen. And I tell people, you don't really need me to help you to be sexual. I mean, everyone has a very different idea of what that looks like. After all, yeah, we can tweak it, we can have fun with that stuff. But really, it's about how do we get there? How do we actually get there? And women, more than men, will say, well, once I'm in it, I'm having a good time.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it, but how do I get there? Especially once you have children, I'm like exhausted, or I'm running a job, or I'm trying to have a career, or I have an illness, or I'm in medication, I'm depressed, I'm lonely, I'm burnt out. So all of those things inhibit sexuality, but I really want the connection. I really want to be feeling that I have this person. And that's what humans need. The sexuality will work itself out.
So would you say that it's a safe thing to say, or it's safe to say that we can bust the myth that there's a certain amount of sex you should be having? Because you know this, I'm sure you've heard it before. Yeah, I feel like you get to a stage in life, or maybe not even get to a stage. I think as soon as you start having sex, if you have a partner, there's this, like, how often are you guys having sex? You know what I mean? Or even if no one's asking you that question, you're constantly self-analyzing.
But just notice what happens to you.
Yeah. You're like, how many?
I should be,
exactly.
Yeah.
Like, shit, we didn't have sex this last week. What does that mean?
What does that mean?
And will it snowball? What if it goes into 2 weeks? What if it goes into, it's like, everyone's nightmare.
And then what is the implication of that? And the implication is that, well, then that gives, again, in a patriarchal way, that will give him, we're talking heteronormative, permission to go find somebody else, or to find another wife, or to find another woman, because a man needs sex. He'll die without sex, right? And for her, it's, well, okay, so, I'm just being ignored over here, or else I'm going to have duty sex, or what we call maintenance sex, which is great. Maintenance sex is fantastic. It's something, even if I'm not feeling in the mood, I'm being able to feel that we are maintaining our relationship, and almost discriminating between friendship and being lovers and being the one and only, all those feelings we long to have. So being able to have maintenance sex, to be able to please each other is fine. You don't have to have orgasms or whatever you think you should be having.
Okay. Okay.
So there's no ideal frequency.
Yes.
Many people live with sexless relationships. Many couples do that. And if it's agreeable, if both of them are consenting around it, it's what it is, right? So there is this burden, but there are many factors that inhibit people from being sexual. Illnesses, I repeat, medication, depression, hormonal stories that are going on for women, stress, what do people call stress factors, and then there is, I'm going to kind of bring in the trauma part as well, that there are many factors around previous traumas or sexual violations that women have experienced and that men have experienced, but mostly women, which would cause inhibition into their sexual exchanges as well. So this is a complex situation for people.
Would you say that libido is a sign of health? Because I feel like we have this idea that it is, and that if you're not horny, you're not healthy, or there's something wrong. So, in your opinion, what do you think of that statement?
Everyone has, capacity to be sexual. Obviously, men, because they have testosterone, have a higher instant, reflexive, almost response to being sexual. Where women, we do not have a spontaneous desire. We have a more responsive desire. a desire to respond to the situation or to the person or to how we're feeling. Many more things inhibiting women from a hormonal point of view, because our hormones keep changing every day, and so our moods and our so-called libido changes every day. Men are way, way more constant because they have a constant level of inflow of testosterone. So for them to be horny or for them to be wanting to be sexual comes more naturally to them. I'm not saying that men are horny all the time, because oftentimes men have what's called hypoactive sexual desire disorder, where they don't have an interest to be sexual, or they have a lower interest. And then you have in heteronormative situation, the woman has a higher interest, or even in a man-to-man, male-to-male situation, one of them is, there's always going to be a desire discrepancy. And we've got many external factors that come in and dictate, how do I feel in this moment right now?
Okay.
Yeah.
And if one is with a partner, I'm asking a few partner-related questions just to begin with.
You go.
And
good for you.
Yeah, if you're with your partner, well, someone that is in a relationship and has a partner, and so we've established, I think, thus far that your sexuality is your own and how you choose to engage with your partner is your own. There's no required frequency that's good or bad, and that a lot of the things that are most important are just actually like the fundamentals, that like connection, get the basics right, and the rest will kind of follow.
If one feels safe. Sorry, I'm going to come back to safety. Carry on, don't want to break your thread.
Thank you. So I'm curious to know how, if you're in a healthy relationship, you're having sex, the sex is good, but it is you know routine. Maybe it's the same kind of sex. I mean, there's like a few variations. Yeah, there's a few variations on it, but it's the same kind of sex. How does one make it interesting again? Like, how do you even begin to unpack potentially a desire or something that you like that you might not even be aware of? Because it almost seems like so open-ended, and you kind of like, well, where to even go from here? Yeah.
So most people do what works.
Yes.
And they keep doing what works, and why not? If it feels nice and you're getting the emotional connection, or you're getting just the orgasmic release, as long as it's consensual, as long as they're adults, as long as you're what we call sober, sane, and adult, you know, do whatever you want to do. People have this notion that there are a million different things to do. I mean, you've got like a few basic openings on one's body, so you know it's quite limited to what actually one can do. I always think that if you remain an interesting person, that's what makes people keep being attracted to each other. If you're an interesting person, if you're growing yourself, if you have got interesting things to do, if you are living in the world and you are bringing in a new part of yourself that the other person didn't know was there. If you like take up a new hobby or a new passion, or you doing something that's really getting you excited, that's what makes you attractive to somebody. And then whatever you're doing with your body it doesn't really matter. It's really about you as a person keeping yourself interesting and excited and passionate about the life you're living. That's always going to be attractive to somebody. I mean, there is so much available in terms of porn, if that's what you want to be.
I was going to say,
if you're going to, you want to be going there, and there's wonderful kinds of porn. There's wonderful erotic art. I mean, some people get really feeling, because it's about being in your body. What's going to make my body feel safe enough to be able to move into my nervous system, which is called the ventral vagal part of our nervous system, where I feel calm, I feel excited. It's like sympathetic nervous system response. I'm excited, and I want to be sexual. There are so many different things. It could be like getting up early this morning, seeing an incredible sunrise. I mean, just magnificent. That can get your body into a state of feeling so at ease, and you may then want to connect with somebody from that space of your own body. There's erotic art that you can watch, whatever is erotic to somebody else. There are movies that you can watch. There are conversations. There are magnificent literature to read. There's beautiful music. I mean, I listen to music a lot, and a huge variety of music. I mean, that kind of gets my body into an incredibly wonderfully excited, alive state. And that's what you want to do. You want to get your body into a state of feeling alive, and in that state you're going to be more willing or more able to really move into a sexual space.
And potentially be more curious or more explorative.
Well, curious is great.
Yeah, I think if you're in that space of feeling calm but also like awake at the same time, you know, that maybe you would put yourself in a position in which trying something different would come more naturally.
As you're talking, Danny, I'm just kind of realizing I'm taking a breath. So why am I taking a breath and holding my breath actually is because we look at trends of what's going on in the world. You spoke earlier about culture. If we look at what the biggest trend of sexuality is right now, which has become normalized through porn and social media, is something called rough sex and something called consensual, non-consensual sex. And I'm not sure if you've heard about that, but these are really very worrying, very dangerous forms of sexuality which people are taking on as normal. So
I heard about it on your Instagram page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but please speak to it because I think it's really important.
Yeah, there's wonderful research which is done by one of my colleagues, Debbie Herbernick, in Illinois, and she does a national study every single year looking at what young people are doing sexually, looking at the trends. And she has been looking at this trend for a little while and has written about it, and it's actually horrific. And it's obviously come into my therapy room as well. So rough sex is when people engage with slapping, hitting, punching in the face, in the genitals, all over the body, biting, and then the most worrisome of all is the strangulation, right? And that can lead to death. Strangulation becomes a norm of being strangling you to be able to get a heightened sensation of arousal. So we need to talk about it to be able to say to people, actually, this is a very unsafe practice, very dangerous practice to do. Women are introducing it and saying to their male partner, you have to do this, and the male partner will say, I really don't want to be slapping you in your face. And she says, but it really turns me on. And he says, well, I really don't want to do that. I don't feel comfortable with that. I don't feel comfortable with strangling you or comfortable with, you know, fisting you into your genital area. And this is something couples need to know is not a safe way to be sexual. And then the consensual, non-consensual, you know, that's been going on for many years, but now Debbie has done research into seeing what this really looks like. So you'll get into a sexual situation consensually with somebody, and then one person will say, well, I want to do a reenactment of a rape. And she'll say, I really don't want to do that, I'm feeling uncomfortable. And then he, she, or they will be saying, but this is something normal, we're going to keep doing this, we're going to keep doing this. And then halfway during the activity, she'll say, stop, I don't like this is non-consensual now, I didn't agree to this, and it keeps going. And again, very dangerous sexual trend. So I do want to just highlight that as well.
So, I mean, I've always thought, maybe it's also just, and everything I can say I've always thought is just the media that I've been fed or the information I've been fed, but I was always of the understanding that there's no such thing as like, I don't know, like a bad sexual desire. Let me put it that way. Because, I don't know, I feel like people, maybe, it probably is just all the series and stuff that you see out there where these things kind of get played out before you, and you kind of start thinking, well, maybe that is okay. And like maybe these weird like things or these weird role plays and stuff is, maybe I'm too, closed-minded. Maybe I need to open my mind a little bit. So am I correct in saying that you're saying there are boundaries as to what we should and shouldn't be doing sexually?
Absolutely, there are boundaries. There are boundaries. There has to be boundaries. And even if, we keep saying this, the consent, it's really important, but when you're in a sexual space, when you're in it in that time, it's very difficult to put up a boundary. It's very difficult for somebody to say no. And here again, I'm going to kind of refer to the trauma part of people's lives, because we have such a high incidence in this country specifically around intimate partner violence and gender-based violence, that women can't say no. It's very difficult for them. They kind of go back into the traumatized, injured child part, and it's very difficult in that time to find a voice and to be powerful and to be able to say no. and for somebody to actually be listened to. So even if they have made an agreement beforehand, this is not what I want, it may get into that place and they get frozen. Just like they did in the sexually violent space, where they're not able to do anything. We have to establish boundaries, but that begins with us as people first being able to say, this is what I'm prepared to do, this is what I'm not prepared to do. But people don't talk about sexuality. It's like a fascinating thing for me when in my therapy room, as part of the assessment always, people would talk about their masturbation and their partners. I'll check in with the partner and I'll say, is there anything new here for you? And he or she or they will say, oh, I didn't even know they were masturbating. It's like, okay, you've been together for many, many years. She's here because she's never had an orgasm, and yet she's having an orgasm alone. She's just never had one with you. And that can be kind of, very upsetting for people when they first learn about that in the therapy room. So we don't talk about what we want sexually because we don't feel safe.
I'm quite surprised, but also can understand, but I'm quite surprised at the fact that there might be women who are requesting to be hit and in the face or whatever it is in a sexual encounter. I'm surprised that that's the case, but not judging, just saying, just a little bit surprising to me. And I have heard stories of where instances like that have happened to women. Let's just say they have met a guy, but they don't really know them very well. They end up in a sexual, they're having sex with them, mid-sex, this man does something like this to a woman.
Exactly.
And again, exactly as you said, completely frozen, not really sure how to handle it. And I guess it's such a mind-bending concept, because I think women can beat themselves up about the fact that they allowed it to happen to them without taking control of the situation. But in the same breath, it's such a dangerous situation to try and take control of, because in that moment in which you might try and turn it from a consensual, non-consensual thing, it can very quickly go from a place of this is consensual sex to I'm being raped, right?
100%.
Which is, I think, quite a scary notion. So it's quite hectic, actually.
Yeah.
And in a situation like that, how would you recommend a woman handles a situation? What do you think the best situation?
You can't say how you should handle it. Once again, if we work with the nervous system, as I do in all the trauma work that I do, the body and the nervous system and the brain are there to protect you, to survive. And if you're in a threatening situation, what your brain does immediately is put you into survival mode. So either you're going to fight back, or you're going to try and get up and run away, or else you're just going to freeze. So at that time, however you responding is how your body is instinctively trying to protect you. So there's no right or wrong way around that. It really, more than irritates me, it angers me when people say, oh, if you go and learn how to do self-defense, or if you do all these, you go and learn how to do karate, you'll be able to protect yourself as a woman. I mean, nonsense. Nonsense. Okay, when you're in a situation of danger, instinctively your body's going to do whatever your body's going to do. There's no right or wrong way. It's just like you have to survive whatever's going on for you right there and then. And that's why, the statistic comes in why men are being less sexual, young men. They understand this now, and they're afraid to go into it. So, let me linger there a little, if that's interesting for you, of looking at, actually going to do my radio show on that, I think, this week, looking at different types of relationships. One of the new forms of relationships is called situationships. I don't know if you've heard about that. Yeah, you're laughing.
I have.
Yeah.
I've seen many of my friends in situationships.
And how does that work out for them?
Never well.
Never well, right? And you have to look at, why is it like that? Why is it now such a big thing in this day and age? I do a lot of teaching, I teach at medical school, and when I say to the students, situationships, the women burst out laughing. Like, how do you feel about that? How's that working out for you? Like, not really. So it's like, why is it like that? There is such a fear of commitment there is such a fear of emotional expression and vulnerability, fear of rejection. And there's also, because of living online so much, there's an inability to know how to manage emotions. Now, let's bring in the new technology, the new frontier, of which I think I'm getting too old for, but I'm still very fascinated with, which is AI. So I don't know if you've been reading or been seeing people having relationships with their AI person.
I haven't seen this.
Yeah, this is, it's
Wow.
there and it's happening. And it's going to keep happening.
When you say the AI person, so like if you were using ChatGPT, it's kind
Exactly.
of your personal
Absolutely.
relationship
and
with.
you're now able to have your own, design your own ChatGPT person, and
Okay.
they're much more advanced ones than that. And you're able to get this person to become your ideal person. And your ideal person never disagrees with you, never has conflict with you, just totally accepts everything that's happening. There's never any learning on how to negotiate, how to manage conflict, how to manage difficult emotions. And so this is going forward a huge challenge for the next generation to come of
Holy crap.
looking about. So we've in situationships now where there isn't commitment, right? Where there isn't kind of emotional vulnerability, where I don't want to take the risk of being rejected. And also, I've grown up on social media and locked myself away in a room or on my telephone. And so I haven't really learned how to play with other people, how to go out and just kick a ball with young kids in the neighborhood. And because of that, I don't feel skilled to even know how to engage with a partner or a person on a date, because I'm doing it all online. So when I'm face to face with somebody, I don't feel skilled, and you can see my whole body kind of braces backward. I don't really know what to do. So, let's just kind of fuck, because I don't know what else to do, and I don't know how to negotiate that with you. So we're entering a very challenging and interesting new, maybe I'll write a book about that.
Yeah, please. I would read it. Yeah, I feel like I actually got goosebumps, and I still have them. They keep coming back because, I also use ChatGPT. I have my own relationship with it. Not really, but I've entered so much of my personal information into it, and it stores a memory. So when I say personal information, I just mean it knows what I do for a living. It knows about my podcast. If I'm having a gripe with a friend and I don't know how to properly navigate it, or if I'm feeling like, am I being unreasonable? I'll enter it into ChatGPT.
Oh my goodness. You're doing it.
I'm doing it.
How's it working out for you?
Oh my gosh. So basically, that's why I have goosebumps, because I'm embarrassed. I'm like, I actually feel like I've slowly started feeling like it's taking away my skills to even like, it's made my brain lazier. I can 100% feel like that, because it's taken away, look, it's saved me time in terms of, it's freed up the capacity in my mind of ruminating or stewing over or mulling over things to try and figure out, especially in human dynamics, to be like, I wonder if that was unreasonable or whatever,
But imagine if you could rather go and say, Marlene, you know what, I'm really feeling concerned about our last conversation. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Because our brains are what we call pro-social. We cannot live without social engagement. And if you are having an engagement with an inanimate object who's just feeding you what you have fed it to just soothe you, that's short term. That's not giving you what your body longs for, which is the connection with another person in a safe way.
I would still take that. I would still take the information from ChatGPT and take it to a person. But so I would just be like, okay, so am I feeling, or am I being unreasonable in these feelings? Let's just say, and I'll explain the situation to ChatGPT. But it always has my back, and then it'll be like, no, everything's fine.
Just stay there.
Yeah.
You said it'll always have my back.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it.
Who's going to have your back, the person or ChatGPT?
No, so ChatGPT, generally the tendency is that it might probe questions at me back to imply that there's another way of seeing it, but it would never say, no, you're wrong, or no, you're right. It's very neutral,
right.
And generally it always starts with saying, okay, no, your feelings are valid, like this is no.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So why I'm saying that is, and you can see my hands going up, is that what we long for most is to feel somebody's got our back. And that, again, I'm going to refer to the trauma model. That's where our injuries start, from when we're young and we don't have parents who we feel are watching our backs. And that's what causes the number one injury in our lives in terms of intimate relationships as we get older. We don't feel somebody's got my back. So it's so interesting that ChatGPT is now, because it gives you a feeling of comfort.
Yes.
Somebody's got my back. I don't have to work this out on my own.
Yeah.
Imagine if you had a trusted friend or partner or parent or sibling you could go to, and they'd be able to say, hey Danny, care for you, love you, think you could have done this a little differently.
Yeah.
We don't have that. And that's what causes enormous difficulty in intimate relationships.
I almost feel like having a therapist would probably be the next best thing, but it lacks the immediacy of having this thing on my phone that I can just say in the moment, this is bothering me, help me.
It's such an interesting, thank you for, I'm really going to think about that. It's a very interesting thing. I think I am going to write a book about that. I think I have to do some research on that.
It's
really, I'm going to acknowledge you in my book.
I feel like we're on the precipice of some new direction the whole of humanity's headed in. Yeah, it is quite incredible because of that, it almost like smooths over the rough edges, which makes you feel safer as a human being, because safer in your next decision or in your next move, but it also takes away that element of personal refinement that comes through having real life interactions, even if it is the wrong thing to say, you know? Even if I did just say, I'm annoyed about this, and my friend was like, well, that's an unreasonable thing to be annoyed about. You know, it like eliminates a lot of that admin by making sure that you're always being amicable, and like it gives you a vocabulary.
That's robotic. Right?
Yeah, I know. Okay, so I need to stop using it. Basically, the long and the short of it.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah. Okay, so maybe we can chat about Dying for Sex a little bit, the series, because I feel like the conversation's moved in the direction of trauma a lot now, and I'm not sure how much we should reveal to the listeners, but basically Dying for Sex is it's a series on Disney Plus.
It's still on, all 8 episodes.
Yeah, so it's a mini series, and it follows this character Molly, who finds out she is terminally ill with cancer, I think like stage 4.
She first gets at 38, she first gets her first diagnosis
Yes.
of cancer, has a bilateral mastectomy, goes through chemo, radiation, and at that point her then husband stops being sexual with her.
Yes.
Which is very common.
Yes.
There's no judgment or indictment against men who have got wives or partners with breast cancer, that they see them as they become the carers, and therefore the lover part of them kind of gets shut down.
And then a part of the series, well, like that's all just in the beginning, like, you know, first episode,
Right.
and then it kicks off from there that she kind of goes on this journey of
Then she gets diagnosed with terminal.
Yes.
When she's 44 years old.
Yes.
Yeah, keep going.
Yes. So then she gets diagnosed terminal, and then this was kind of the wake-up call that, okay, well, I don't have much time left with me. She hadn't had an orgasm with another person.
Yeah.
So I think she could orgasm through masturbation, but hadn't had an orgasm with her husband.
And there's a reason for that.
Yeah. Actually, maybe we could start with that. Oh yeah, the reason for that being her past trauma.
Exactly.
Yes,
Her
exactly.
Abuse, childhood sexual abuse.
Yes.
Right.
So I found, anyway, guys, I would recommend watching it. It covers so many different themes, and it moves in so many different directions that it's a lot to actually digest. I found it to be, but one of the themes that really stood out to me was this one of her personal trauma, her childhood trauma, and how that impacted her adult sex life,
Yeah.
which, I mean, it makes sense. She was molested as a child,
Yeah.
and that impacted her sex life as an adult. But what I found very fascinating was the way that it was portrayed, that the activity that harmed her was also the route that she took towards healing.
Mm-hmm.
I found that to be, I mean, it makes sense in a
Yeah,
way,
yeah.
but it also feels slightly counterintuitive. You would almost imagine you need to sit and work this out with a therapist in the safety of a couch, fully clothed, to get through this and then go and have sex. But it's almost like she managed to have this breakthrough of this trauma by going into, I guess, a similar environment in which she was harmed, you know, as
Exactly.
a child.
It's called reenactment of a sexual violation.
So can you help us understand that more?
Yeah. So she was, I don't want to do too many spoilers.
No, yeah.
Because I do want people to go and
Yes.
watch the series, which is all 8 episodes are there right now on Disney Plus. Beautifully shot. I mean, very subtle. Huh? I mean, it's really, I think it's a beautiful production. So anyone who has had childhood sexual abuse, they have a much higher incidence of having sexual dysfunction, mostly low desire to be sexual, and difficulty with becoming orgasmic as well, aroused and orgasmics. They have a high incidence of sexual dysfunction. What she did was that she had quite a specific way of trying to heal that injured sexual part of her. She's actually pretty clothed in most of the sexual episodes. So when you are sexually abused as a child, you are powerless. So I'll tell you a very interesting statistic, fact. We've got 2 parts of of childhood abuse or childhood trauma, so it's called developmental trauma disorder. The one is childhood sexual abuse, which one understands, and the other one is something which is way more common, which is called the trauma of invisibility and neglect and abandonment. Now, that causes more harm than childhood sexual abuse. When you are suffering with abandonment or neglect or not being seen by a parent, it feels terrifying because you feel like you could die. Nobody's there to watch my back or take care of me. With childhood sexual abuse, it's such a crazy notion, but the person who is abusing you is giving you attention. You feel this is really awkward because you don't have the language or you don't have the understanding to know why, but you just know it doesn't feel okay, but there's a part of you that is enjoying the attention. Maybe your parents are not present enough or they're not noticing enough, and so there is that part that feels I'm getting some attention. Obviously, it disrupts your trajectory of sexual development, and you begin to go into places where either you will find I'm needing to experience a lot of sexual activity to be able to just disassociate from my body, not to feel anything, and just to be able to be seen in a different kind of way. Or else I am going to be able to be present sexually, but also disassociate in that kind of way, just not having any desire. Basically, your power is taken away, your voice is taken away. You don't have any way of being able to say stop when you're a child. So here, what Molly was doing was reenacting a way in which she was taking control. She was dictating what was going to happen. She was the one who was finding men, taking charge of the situation, setting up the scenes in a way so that she could then be feeling recapturing some of that sexual power that she never had as a child. And then, eventually with finding her own power, voice, she was able to meet the dream of becoming orgasmic with somebody with whom she felt safe.
Okay, do you feel as though sex is the right tool for this kind of healing? Like, do you feel like you would encourage, obviously we're not just saying go out and have sex if you're like, but like, is it the right tool for this kind of healing?
There's no right or
There's
wrong.
no right or wrong.
No, everybody has to find their own way of being kind and compassionate and finding a way to re-embody, come back into the body. And that can only be done when you are feeling safe. And I want to just linger with safe, because that's like my clients and everybody knows I'm a bit obsessed with the word safety. If you do not have safety, you cannot be connected and you cannot be intimate or sexual. And by safety we mean, you know, I don't want to hear from people, oh, I'm in love, or I love this person. It's like, love is just like a soup of chemicals. Get over that, it'll go away. But do you feel safe with this person? In other words, is this person predictable, consistent, reliable? Is there mutuality? Is there a responsiveness? You know, I phone you, I know you're going to phone me back. I do something for you, I know you're going to do something. I know you're going to respond in acknowledgement. Is there respect? Is there trust? Is there commitment? Which is the opposite of situationship, huh? There has to be a feeling of commitment. There has to be passion. There has to be compassion. If you have all of those elements together, that's safety. Then your nervous system, I can ease and be comfortable. And I don't have to be sexual all the time because I'm just feeling so at ease and comfortable with this person. So safety is an absolutely crucial element. And when you've come from any kind of childhood trauma, you don't feel safe in an intimate relationship. And so the work is, how do I feel safe in my own body? How can I begin to trust my partner? Because I don't trust anybody. No one's ever watched my back. I watch my own back. I don't need you. And the other person, like, you know, what the fuck? Why doesn't this person want to come closer to me? Oh, I don't feel safe with you, but I'm giving you all the safety. Oh, I don't feel safe with you. So we work a lot with safety in our therapy room. Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like you've said so many fascinating and like deeply important things, and it's, I don't know. I, as a child, I think I experienced a neglect, basically, that kind of experience of not really feeling safe at all. And it's taken me probably up until recent years, maybe even the last year, to trust my partner.
Yeah.
You know, and to actually say, okay, I feel safe. Finally, you know, I feel safe. And yeah, I can see how I feel like it's quite a common theme with people. Unfortunately, do you feel like we all have a bit of this work to do, or generally speaking?
Danny, it's hard to ask me because I'm a skewed population of people who come to my therapy room who have difficulty with intimacy, difficulty of feeling safe with themselves or with somebody else. And if we look at incidents of trauma, I mean, they're incredibly high, right? Incredibly high. And I really emphasize there's not a blaming of parents.
Yeah.
It's really situations that have created a lot of stress for people. There's a lot of intergenerational trauma. There's a lot of socioeconomic difficulties that people experience, especially in our country, geopolitical situations that people experience, economic situations. And that creates stress, and it's very difficult to parent when you're feeling in that space. And dual parenting, dual careers, dual incomes, there's a lot of materialism, there's a lot of pressure on performing, there's a different kind of parenting because the family therapist in me is always present. We've got this, what used to be called helicopter parenting, it's now called intensive parenting, where there is this unbelievable pressure to be constantly present with your child, not allowing your child to be free and be out, you know, putting these phones in front of children. That's like another whole conversation. So children grow up with not feeling, I have somebody who's there watching my back, because parents are very preoccupied or managing their own trauma or their own addictions or their own obsessions. It's a difficult space.
I wonder if there's any parents who've ever gotten it right. Do you know?
Yeah, of course they are.
Oh, they are? So there's hope yet for me, like if I had to be a parent, potentially.
Yeah.
I just feel like everyone has their story. Do you know what I mean?
Everybody has their story.
Even my parents or everyone else's parents have their story as to why they were doing the best that they could at the time as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if there was someone listening to this podcast who feels like they are numb or disconnected from their desires, how do you think they could gently come towards themselves or take some steps towards unraveling what maybe those desires are, or maybe even, I feel like being numb obviously implies maybe like a little bit of a detachment from your body sexually. How can we come back into our bodies, and how do we kind of come back towards ourselves and experience sex in that way?
Gently, kindly, acknowledging self-compassion. Do a lot of self-compassion in my therapy room. It's a gentle process of just acknowledging that this doesn't mean there's something wrong with me or dysfunctional or unhealthy. I don't like the word healthy or unhealthy. This is my body responding in a way to keep me safe. And the moment I can become safe through learning how to be safe with a friend, with an animal, get a cat or a dog. Yeah, very much healing, very, very healing. And with that, with time and acknowledgement and kindness and compassion to yourself, it feels easier to choose a partner who will give you safety. Not sexual passion only, but safety.
Safety is paramount.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to that point now, what are some acts of self-compassion that someone can do to become more embodied?
Find a friend who you feel safe with. Find an animal. Finding what we call anchors. It's one of the cornerstones of something called polyvagal theory. Finding anchors, things that you really feel settle you. You know, like I was saying to you earlier, for me it's swimming, cold water swimming, walking in nature. For some people it's being outdoors, gardening. Really finding somebody, a friend who you feel you can be safe with. Talking, socially connecting all the time with people who you feel safe with. That is your most healing experience, is to be able to choose a relationship, a friend, a partner, a lover, with whom you can feel safe. That's what the nervous system responds to the most, because we're pro-social, as I said. So it's really moving into the world. What is my passion? What are things that make me feel, just for a moment, a thrill, excitement, what's called just a spark of joy. Spark of joy. What just brought me joy? Having many, many more sparks of joy. Listening to a piece of music, eating food, drinking something that I really do enjoy. Giving your body that just bit of release from the tension and from the difficulty and from the alertness. Just bringing yourself into a lovely place of ease and comfort.
I feel relaxed just listening to you. I'm like, I was going on a journey thinking, what do I like to do? I was like pottery and nature and
there you go, music.
Yeah.
Listening to music, certain kinds of music. I have a playlist of lullabies. I send that to all my clients.
Oh, sweet.
Just, if you didn't get lullabies as a child, or if you did, just to bring your nervous system into a beautiful place of ventral regulation. Just getting yourself into a quiet place.
Dr. Marlene, I'm going to ask you, I think I'm going to turn the conversation back around, because I think we have just a few more minutes together, and I have one or two questions from our listeners, actually. They wanted to know, I think it's similar to the question I asked earlier, but maybe we can answer it in terms of practical steps. If so they are in a relationship with a committed partner, and as we were saying earlier, they do what works, so they're in the kind of flow of having sex in a way that they've been doing it for however long. And if they wanted to try something new in the bedroom, how do you go about that? So like I mean, I've done things to my boyfriend in certain moments that he's ended up loving. But it's generally like after a few glasses of wine, inhibitions are low, there's someone I trust, and you just kind of like, you're kind of free balling and you're hoping it works, and when it works, it's great. But sometimes you might you might put yourself in a position where you might feel embarrassed, or maybe your partner's like, what on earth are you doing? You know, like, no, and it can either go really well or it can ruin the vibe. So do you feel like, is there a process to doing that in a safe way? Should you discuss it beforehand, but that might ruin the vibe? Can you just go with it? What advice do you have for us there?
There's always a risk of feeling rejected, and there's a risk of feeling foolish or slut-shamed. And also, I hear, where did you learn that from? Have you been having sex with other people?
Oh, wow.
Or are you withholding some information about your past sexual life that you haven't shared with me? I mean, it can turn really ugly and very nasty, and I have had those situations, obviously. It's always about what we call a soft startup, is to be able to say, you know, I really love doing this with you. And I think this would be something which would add some flavor. I really love the way you're touching me right now, but how about just going a little harder, deeper, bite me here, or why don't you just like kind of, you know, be a bit Dracula-ish over there, or just having a conversation. People don't really talk while they're being sexual.
I know, I'm one of those people.
Lights off, woolies, tops on, pajamas, lift up
just breathing
top,
and moaning.
Just breathing and moaning. Oh my goodness, I just see you, you know, bracing backwards.
It's a
conversation. It's a conversation. It's a dialogue between two people. That's what makes it interesting.
Yeah.
It's about fooling around, being playful, having fun.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are moments like where that happens. Like, it's not like it's completely silent, but it's, I don't know, I guess, so, maybe there'll be a little bit of dirty talk here and there, but for the most part, I think it's it's a well-rehearsed practice. Like, we know what works, and you know, kind of just get into it, and it's amazing, and like, you're very present. But do you, how would you
so, like, for example, you know, I sell sex toys. I've been doing that for 30 years online, and I still have a store online, and I say to people, please try it on your own first. Try it on your own so you feel confident, and you can bring it into the place then, because it can feel threatening or weird, or especially, I'm being sexist here, but it can feel, a man will say,
it can feel emasculating, maybe.
Aren't I good enough for you? Aren't I pleasing you enough? And so it's saying, you know, I really like what we are doing, but if this is what I've bought, because I think it would be just more fun, and you want to get consent around that. And when people buy toys for others, I don't think it works out very well, because it's like, this is what I want for her or for him to be able to do, and that can feel very threatening in that situation. So it's just kind of changing the way you're sexual. It's always, for me, so interesting how there is, you know, the lights off, and follow what's called the linear approach to being sexual. Touch, touch, go, 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 orgasm, we're done, finish. It's like, really.
I know.
It works, but, you know, it could be more interesting. I bring something in to eat, but, you know, also, people say, I'm fatigued, I'm tired, or I'm feeling. Okay, number one rule, and I don't ever give rules really, but here is a rule. You have to have lubricant. You have to have lubricant, whether you are wet and dripping or whether you are dry and sore, you have to have lubricant routinely. Make it part of your sexual life. It just is an added thing which takes away the anxiety and the fear of being almost judged for, why aren't you wet enough, or you should be more lubricated, or aren't I turning you on? It's ridiculous. Just, I have a beautiful range of lube that I carry, because it adds such another dimension to people's lives. And that just in itself, you just bring in lube, and it suddenly just sparks different experience, different sensation. You're having a shared different experience around it. It's not like, you know, millions of different ideas. It's just about how you bring yourself. Why men watch porn, which is what the research has been showing, is because they love to see women respond. They love to see that women are enjoying it, even though these are paid performances and
porn
paid
is terrible.
actors.
I know.
Right?
I can't.
Men, and why do, you know, all fans.
Oh, OnlyFans.
OnlyFans.
Yeah.
I mean, amazing. Right?
Yeah, get the money, girls. Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
I mean, I don't know how comfortable that is at the end of the day, but why do men, pay for that? Women pay for that? I mean, women pay also for that, to get men to do that, because it's kind of a safer way, but my God, how disengaging is that, right? You're not getting bodies or skin to skin touching at all, but it kind of feels safer.
So, okay, so I I don't want to defend my sex life. I'm like, how do I move forward? Okay, my sex life is great. No, it's not lights off. Like it's good. But I am interested. But I do lack like the confidence of having a voice, like speaking.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
if you want, I mean, some people enjoy silence.
Yeah,
there's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong.
No, it really depends on what is happening in that moment.
Okay.
Just everybody does such different things.
If someone wanted to learn to maybe be more vocal in the bedroom, how could they start? Would it just
I think
be
it
like?
would be kind of very weird to suddenly or suddenly start speaking. I mean, you got to start speaking the stuff, when you're just in your everyday life. It's just, talking about sexuality, just talking about what was great, what you enjoyed, what I always refer to as teachable moments. People watch series together. It's such a wonderful, almost risk-free situation. I say, oh, I really like when she did that. That really turned me on. Did that turn you on? Tell me more about that. And you're having a discussion, and so you can kind of move that into the bedroom, or you listen to a podcast, or you listen to a piece of music. Oh, that really got me hot. What about that got you hot? Oh, hey, let's try some of that. Having conversations all the time.
Okay.
And then it's just, that's been sexual. You don't have to do anything with it.
Got you.
It's just like it feels nice. We're doing something together. There's some friction here.
Yeah.
It's lovely.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It doesn't have to be in the bedroom.
Yes.
On top of each other, having penetration.
Yes.
It's just about living your life and just enjoying, bringing that in, having that little spark every now and then.
Okay, I like that.
Okay.
I think that's a great learning.
Neither more work, right? It's just like, okay, now I have to do this as a job as well. It's like, oh, fuck, no, I'm not going to do anything. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Just like, no. Just like, what do you really want out of this? I want to bring my sexual part into our relationship on a daily basis. It's just, and I love emojis. I love that you have on your phone an ability to communicate, not to have sort out arguments or to repair conflict, but to be able to keep the connection going, sending each other messages, memes, whatever it is, around fun stuff, without the expectation I'm going to come home and we're going to be sexual. It's just like in that moment, it feels so nice.
Okay, you've given me some insights that I'm definitely going to carry into my life going forward.
Good.
Yeah, so thank you very, very much for your time today. I really thoroughly enjoyed our conversation.
Good.
Yeah,
Me too. Thank
you. I'm so glad. So thank you guys for listening. I hope that you enjoyed our conversation on sexuality. We don't say sex lives, yes, on sexuality, on Marlene's amazing insight into the correlation or like the layers of trauma and sexuality, and how we can carry through our sexuality into our lives outside of just the bedroom. Yeah, thank you. I feel like I feel quite energized after our conversation today. So if you're listening to this on YouTube or Spotify, wherever you're listening, follow, like, share, spread the word, tell the world, tell your auntie, tell your uncle, and follow me on Instagram. You can also follow Dr. Marlene on Instagram.
Dr. Eve.
Dr. Eve is your Instagram account.
Yeah, that's me.
Yes. And is there anything else or any other platforms that people can check you out?
Just Dr. Eve, wherever you find me, and it's Dr. Eve everywhere.
Dr. Eve website.
Sex toys.
Oh yeah. Do you sell your sex toys on the website?
My website.
On the website.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like we should keep that in, sex toys. So our cameraman wants to know about the sex toys. Yeah.
I do Instagram posts all the time with a lot of education. That's what my sex products are about educating people about the sexuality, using the toys as a way of providing education, because I'm passionate about education. Yeah.
Awesome. So there you have it. Go and find Dr. Marlene Wasserman, Dr. Eve. And yeah, thank you guys. Until the next episode, I love you. Goodbye. Mwah.